87th Precinct bonus episode. The bonus episode attached to our main podcast, which was about Ed McBain's 20th 87th Precinct novel, Doll. And our bonus episodes, well, they've got a format all of their own. Mainly the format is
Huffington.
Book Huffington and The Huffers play their greatest hit, or rather Stevo smells the books and reports in on the various aromas.
I know for an absolute fact that is a highlight for many in the series.
It's, yeah, we've had lots of letters.
Although, for the first time, we've already huffed one of the books before, because Morgan's got a...
I feel like omnibus. I might have had another omnibus.
I think we've had double editions.
Yeah, I've
had double huffing before.
Possibly, yeah. And
you've never double huffed triple omnibus.
Oh.
No, triple huff.
Yeah, there'll be a triple huff next time.
A truff.
Well, it'd be interesting. You have to make sure you smell the bit of the book where this story is.
Might smell different,
point,
yeah. But anyway, the point is the
huffing
book. The book
one
huffing
thing we do.
Is an aside to us actually looking at the covers of the various books that we've got.
And then the old books on your bits of paper.
Old books on my bits of paper.
Argosy. And that's about it, really, isn't it?
Rambling about...
Carry On films, which
British
I cannot believe we've not mentioned yet, but now we have, so that's out the way.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
And then there we go, yeah.
Let's have a look at the covers of the editions that we've got. So we'll start with... We'll put these all on the Instagram and Twitter and the like.
Morgan's is useless because it's an omnibus.
Useless.
Yeah, we've discussed it before.
Well, we have.
If there was ever a title for a great cover...
Doll, is it?
This is the book, isn't it?
So Morgan's
lets that down a bit.
Just got the standard 87th Precinct shield.
With the A-team writing.
Yeah, with the A-team font, as it's popularly known.
Stencil.
And it does the trick. Not really relevant to this novel above any of the others, but you wouldn't expect it to be.
Well, I've got a pan edition from... Let's have a look. When's my pan? Because we both got pans, and they're very similar.
Lots of pan editions from here on in.
Both on the spine and rear. This is the 1976 pan. When's yours?
Mine is third printing 1979, which is why I've got the shiny gold McBain writing on the front. Right. But they've both got different dolls on the front of them.
They have. I thought mine was Scary Enough, which is horizontal doll face. Was
that a gangster?
Looking blankly upwards.
I remember the Wu-Tang Clan, possibly.
Yeah.
A bit in a deceased, creepy fashion. Now, that is bad enough, but Paul's is absolutely terrifying.
Is it because it looks slightly more alive that it's more like the Uncanny Valley thing?
Well, it's waving at us, for starters, so that's bad. It's got big eyelashes, a weird expression, and quite strange hair.
I think when we were discussing this earlier, you made quite an apt sort of movie reference to the two different dolls.
So mine's a bit more like you would see maybe in the movie Deep Red by Dario Argento.
Of whom we talked about his Suspiria a little while ago.
We did. So creepy enough, but yours looks like something out of a video nasty that was,
1980.
Banned for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a spin-off from Child's Play or something like that.
That's creepy. But the covers are great, really, because we're quite often disappointed with the covers, aren't we? But this a literal connection visually works.
I think it's because they know that there is something fundamentally creepy about dolls. If you're not a kid playing with them, they look very strange and out of context against a stark black background or something like that. They can, with the shadow on the face.
Well, I was reading this on the train the other day. If people looked over and you're reading this, they'd be like, "What the truth is that all about?"
Yeah.
So that's quite good in that regard.
But, good old reliable pan editions. Can't argue with that. We'll have a look at the original editions, which I'm showing to the gentleman now.
Jesus, Nora, what?
Jesus, Nora.
This one's even worse. The Hamish Hamilton UK hardback 1966 is absolutely terrifying.
Well, they've added, as well as the doll, they've got the terrified child just to...
Yeah, so it's actually a reenactment of the events of the first chapter.
Oh, that's
Also, some very groovy 1966 type writing going on there too.
It's got a nice sort of Austin Powers-esque look to the doll.
Maybe a bit of a nod to the sort of counterculture element that might play a little bit of background in the story, or maybe they just thought it looked cool.
what's this half? Is that a doll?
I think right. So the original hardback edition, which is in, so this is the second of the Delacourt Press books. I think it's a split
a
between
model.
half the model's face and half a doll's face.
So
that doll's-
both of the uses of doll there.
The same goes for the Dell paperback, but it's a bit more clear and less of graphic design. Although it's quite nice graphic
Quite
design.
like the font on that.
Yeah, it's a nice looking one. That
This one's.
it wasn't published in paperback in the UK until the Penguin edition in 1969. But it's a bit of a strange one. The front of that, it's
Can't really see what's going on there.
Some blinds, a window, some tower blocks, and
A
what's
blood stain is there as well?
a
Is that a
blood stain that looks fair, and there's some eyes. Well, that doesn't make much sense. That one.
well. If I hold it up here, does it become a face? No. Yes. No.
It's a bit like a rabbit.
It looks a bit like a rabbit.
Doesn't it,
This is
though?
someone who's not read it. I think it is supposed to be a face, isn't it? Yeah, it definitely is a face. I think it might be a doll's face, but with
possibly.
a city scene in it. But then there's a blind.
With some tomato ketchup on it. Nobody has a doll. It looks like a rabbit. Look.
It doesn't look like a rabbit.
Massive rabbit eyes, tiny rabbit mouth. Oh no, that's the thing that's pulling. That's. I thought that was the mouth.
Well, I thought that was a mouth.
Well, if that's a mouth, I don't know any doll that looks like that. Looks like a rabbit or Darth Vader.
I'll make sure I put these up on the Instagram or
Darth Vader.
Twitter before we release this, so you can compare and understand what the heck we're talking
A
about.
rabbit or
Well.
Darth Vader?
That's strange.
They're making that film, I think.
That's strange. They're okay. That one's very terrifying. Yours is incredibly terrifying, and mine's just creepy. And Morgan's is an omnibus and a bit boring.
Yeah, the doll on the front of the Hamish Hamilton edition is makes it worse as well. 'Cause it's got a really weird pinched face as well.
And if they'd have edited it, it could be quite funny. This one, in that if you didn't have the hand there, it would look like I'll show you.
Go on.
It looked like the doll has a massive right hand.
Just some very strange perspective trick.
Jeremy Beadle doll.
Oh dear. Well, he's not going to complain about it,
I
is it?
suppose he's not, no.
So there you go. It's always interesting looking at the different editions. I couldn't find many foreign editions of Doll. I don't normally try and dredge up every single foreign edition, but actually I think there's something weird with the publishing history of Doll that it's not appeared in every country and every territory. I don't know why. Possibly I just haven't found the correct ones. But whereas I've seen most of the Italian editions and most of the Japanese editions, I've not been able to find versions of Doll, but it may just be that I'm looking for the wrong thing. So anyway, I'll make sure those are up on the Twitter, as I have said. We have got a couple of questions here.
Right.
Something that is relevant to the topic we discussed, the 87th Precinct, and something unrelated. Our friend Adam Paxman, he of the Star Trek episode, he had several questions, but I think basically what he's asking overall here is, he says, as the city is such a key character, are there any telltale signs of 60s-ness at this midpoint? Architecture, fashion, culture, otherwise? And he wonders about I think he's basically trying to say,
Can you tell it's the 60s?
can you tell it's
reading
the
this
60s?
book?
Yeah, essentially is what he's asking.
Well, I mean, with the little photographic portfolio in this, there's certainly some hints of
Yeah.
60s-ness going on there, I'd say.
Yeah, those. That's undoubtedly of the time. Not a massive amount in this. Some definitely very much of their time, aren't they?
We've had quite a few where there's he's come across musicians and people like that who use slang,
Yeah,
but a lot of that's quite jazzy, and that feels like it could be anything from the 30s to the
that's true, yeah.
to now probably. I'm sure there's still people talking that hepcat talk.
When he's describing Tinker Sax, he very much describes your twiggy.
Yeah,
60s
Gene Shrimpton kind of,
60s
yeah.
model. You're in no doubt of as
But he
to
doesn't-
what she looks like in your mind's
But he
eye,
didn't know at
so-
the time that he was writing
Absolutely.
something that would later be like an archetype
Yeah.
of the 60s. He's just describing what was going
Yeah,
on.
exactly. So you're reading it now. It doesn't sound like anything from the 50s or the 70s, put it that way. So maybe this isn't the best example of...
No, but I think one of his skills with these books, and we've said it when people ask you which one should I start with, and you think, well, where do you drop in? Is it the time and the setting that could be difficult to get hold of? Actually, because he makes you feel like you're there with human beings, if you were whisked in a time machine back to 1965, you'd be more bothered about having been whisked in a time machine than you would be dealing with the differences between now and then, because it was not that different. It was still just people going around their day-to-day life, their lives. Just because you don't have mobile phones doesn't mean it is an absolutely foreign country. You would still get in a car to drive somewhere. There's still offices for modelling agencies. There's still elevators. There's still people living, At no point do you have a sequence where Corella thought he better drop into the local go-go club to check out, stuff like that.
I think it's certainly rare that there's anything that really kind of very much kind of stamps the time like absolutely definitively on the novel. There's like odd little details that will pass by, but nothing massive most of the time. Trying to think, I'm sure there are some examples where there'll be the odd one which is absolutely forever just nailed in one place by something that happens. Frumious Bandersnatch, perhaps.
Yeah.
Probably not too many others.
I always shiver when you say Frumious Bandersnatch. It's not because the phrase Frumious Bandersnatch, because I understand the context that's from. It's just how it's used in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the things that happened in the police procedures, like the Miranda rights, which haven't kicked in yet in these, that means things have to be a certain time. But you wouldn't know, generally people wouldn't know that was a thing that happened in 71 or whatever it was.
I suppose the ones we had with the street gangs and all that, they're fairly of that
It'd be
period,
reflective of their time to some extent, but yeah.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
And sort of, things that were current concerns, I guess. But
yeah, I think it's interesting. I think they seem sort of timeless, but you can appreciate them as documents of their time.
Yeah, there's enough, but there's a light touch to it.
Yeah, because he's living through it and we're reading it back, but he's living through it. The characters are living through it. It's it's interesting. But I think it does. If you wanted to look closely, like in this story we've just read, that thing with the modelling agency having a really trendy office where you can't tell where the door starts and the wall ends and that sort of stuff. That's quite a 60s sort of thing. But you'd have to sort of retrofit your mind to imagine it. So it could be absolutely fabulous, type stuff. And we did get a question from our friend Andrew about the NFL. I think I'd mentioned something about it, and he was asking about how popular the NFL was over here, and I was telling him a bit about how the matches over here always sell out and things like that. They go down very well. But the question he was asking was, how do we choose our NFL teams? And it's, on the whole, we're not a massively sporty podcast. Stevo is much more of a sports fan than Morgan and I combined, I think. But I think we've all got an NFL team. So what's yours, Stevo? What's your story?
Well, mine's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I picked those because they're clearly the best. And
Fighting talk straight off the bat.
No, I can't remember really. Watching them with my dad in the 80s on Channel 4.
So you've got a little connection there.
Yeah, and I, in the depths of time, decided probably like the logo.
Yeah.
I suspect.
Simple as that.
And they were very dominant in the 70s, which is a great period of time. So yeah, something as daft as that, I would think. But too long ago that I can't really remember.
I think
because they were a bit in the doldrums in the 80s as well, so they weren't very successful then.
Sometimes you just feel it, don't you, when you're younger or whatever, or you make a decision and it being the nature of things, you feel like you've got to stick with it.
So you get a lot of fans.
Don't want to be a glory hunter.
You get a lot of fans in this country who watched it then who will be like 49ers fans or Redskins or Dolphins because they were, the 49ers really, Bill Walsh.
Or at the time, a lot of people liked the Raiders just because they looked kind of cool and because
that logo, didn't they?
Yeah, if you're into hip hop, then you probably like the Raiders just because you wanted to be Public Enemy.
There's a car, someone further down the road that I live on, they've got it's like a Jeep. Their tyre cover is the Oakland Raiders.
I've seen that around. Yeah.
Cover. So what was your pick. What's your NFL team?
My NFL team is the Seahawks. Again, going back to when Channel 4 started showing highlights in the 80s. And I watched it. I didn't really have a team at the time. I just sort of watched everyone be kind of generally entertained by it. But I definitely didn't want to be someone who just supported one of the obvious teams, because that's no fun, is it? And just found a Seahawks replica shirt in my size in a charity shop. Goodwill, I guess, for our American listeners.
Yeah.
In Cumbria?
Yeah, in Cumbria, in Cockermouth, I think, actually. And
in the 1980s?
In the 1980s.
Wow, that's amazing.
And exactly in my size, and it was just a sign. So
meant to be.
So yeah, and I thought they had a cool logo, and again, they were kind of very much in the doldrums at the time.
They were fairly garbage then as well.
Yeah, so I just thought, yeah, this is a team for me, and stuck with them since.
Yeah.
Wow.
My team was so bad in the 80s, they didn't even exist.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm fairly...
New franchise fan, unbelievable.
I'm a new fan too, and it just happens to be a new franchise in the Carolina Panthers, which I decided to choose when we started watching it again. I say recently, I mean within the last 5 or 6 years, when the coverage started to get a bit better, and we started just getting hooked into watching it a bit more. And it was, I think, the season that Cam Newton first really started to make a massive impact, and he was absolutely brilliant. He's sort of been not quite as brilliant since, still damn good. And also that was about the time I went to America for the first time, and I was trying to think, well, I want to pick something from somewhere I've been, but I don't want to pick Atlanta, because I've been to Atlanta and I played a rubbish gig there. Well, the gig wasn't particularly rubbish, but it was
forever in your mind.
It was in a smoky bar, and I haven't been in a bar that was smoky for donkey's years, and it was horrible. And it was a bit underwhelming, so I was like, I'm not picking the Falcons. And the only other thing I could think that was down that way that I'd been to was Charlotte, where we were getting a plane transfer from. But it just so happened that the Carolina Panthers were doing very, very well at the time, and I was really enjoying watching them. And I'd been to Charlotte, so there you go.
The rest is history.
The rest is history, as is their chance at the Super Bowl this year, probably.
Well, it's getting to crunch time now.
Things are going, but who knows? Anyway, so that's the most sport you're going to hear me talk about. I'm not going to let Stevo tell you all about watching the English cricket team win in Sri Lanka, where he was a couple of weeks ago.
It was very exciting, yeah. It was lovely.
I bet it was.
Should we get on to the other great sport of this world, book huffing?
Oh yes, we haven't huffed. We've saved it for late in the bonus episode this time. He's going in with his own copy.
Mild, peppery.
Oh, peppery.
Peppery.
Classic black pepper, is that?
Peppery. Odorless.
My edition, odorless, and
so
this is the second test.
Ooh, totally. A bit sweet.
Brilliant. Well, that was very, very comprehensive, quite quick, clinical
almost.
I've got
a question for you all. How did we decide our favourite book huffer, and why?
Favourite?
Yeah, my favourite, Buck Huffington.
Oh, your favourite member of Buck Huffington and The Huffers?
Yeah. And obviously Buck Huffington's the best member of Buck Huffington and The Huffers.
Well, he writes all the material.
Well, he does, yeah. And huffs the most. No, I'm not really asking that question.
No, because it's weird enough even for us around this table. For anyone listening, it'll be absolutely incomprehensible. Hi, new listeners.
Bye, new listeners.
Bye, new listeners.
I think you underestimate how popular that segment is.
Well, if I could get the stats to see if there's a sharp drop off after that point, I don't know.
Tune in.
Yeah, people are just skipping forward 15 seconds at a time on the podcast app to get to where Stevo smells.
Well, does it have one of those graphs where you can see?
No.
So when someone's singing a song, it goes really high. I bet it peaks when the huffing starts, so you can skip to that point.
Stevo's drawing a graph on my wall with his finger. No, I'm sorry, Steve, I haven't got the information. But, if you're out there and you appreciate Stevo's book huffing antics, please do let us know, and I'll be sure to pass it on to him.
Because I fear without everyone's support, it might get ditched from the as a segment.
Well,
Which would be most sad, because
it would.
I look forward to it.
Perhaps someone could start a podcast where they rate your book huffing.
Well,
And
there's plenty of...
there's been podcasts made about worse things.
We could huff
He's
anything, really.
All England speed huffer. And the amazing thing is that we're using the word huff completely incorrectly as well in this sense.
Yeah. But that's another reason why it's so popular.
It is. It's
people
wacky and zany.
Really don't understand
it is.
But it's bound up in part of the thing. The podcast is about Ed McBain and a specific set of books, but we do talk about other books, and part of it is just the love of books in general.
Definitely,
and one of those things is the physicality of them. You can't smell a Kindle. Well, you can, but it doesn't come with some special inbuilt function where it will replicate the smell of an old book.
A rubbish huffing subject, I would say, Kindle.
Definitely, yeah.
Unless you have a slider on the side of the Kindle that you can select whether what you're reading you want to smell like an 1870 badly stored 1870s library edition, or a brand new off-the-shelf Thomas and Mercer Amazon clinically produced edition, or something like that. Well, isn't it exciting, eh? Well, I've run out of notes for things to say now. I mean,
Well, yeah.
I think after the drama of the book huffing...
Where do we go from here?
Well, there's only one way.
Yeah. Perhaps all's been said and smelt and observed and witnessed.
Yeah. Well,
so what's the next book? I always ask
the
that.
next book is 80 Million Eyes.
Yep.
Also, next month is going to be our Christmas episode. I have a feeling that today may be our second birthday.
Oh, right. Okay.
You two talk about something and I'll find out. See if I can find out.
God, how many birthdays will we get up to by the time we...
20, so we've got another 25 to do, so that's about another 2 and a bit years. We could probably finish about Christmas 20...
Well, I'll tell you now, and
20.
This will depress the listeners when I tell you this. Right, so our first episode came out on the 22nd of the 11th, 2016. So that's when we released it. So this is officially our second birthday.
Wow. Happy birthday to us.
Happy birthday to us, indeed. If we went entirely to plan, this podcast would conclude
on Christmas Day 2020.
No, in October 2021.
2021.
Gosh.
Because there's 55 books in the series and we've only done 20.
So 25 is 25 more months.
Yes, but we've only done 20 and there's 55 books, so that's 35.
Right. Sorry, yeah, my ability to subtract a number from another number,
which bodes well for our darts careers,
failed by a significant... Yeah, I was thinking there was 45.
You never know, we might double...
So October
2021.
Well, it will probably miss a couple of months at some point, so yeah, we might finish Christmas.
Okay.
Have a big old knees up.
Yeah, you're all invited to Stevo's house in December 2021.
I'll tell you what we'll do in that episode. I'll huff all 55 in one go.
Can one man stand it?
By that time, we might out there now.
We might be too old to take that many breaths in one go.
That's pretty true.
Get lightheaded. Excellent stuff. Well, thank you again, gentlemen, for this enlightening bit of nonsense.
Oh yes.
Talking about nonsense, in about 25 minutes, Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer's Big Night Out returns to our TV screens. If anyone out there wants to get the measure of us in terms of things that we like, that we find funny, I did share on our Twitter feed the Pete and Dud art gallery sketch recently. But if you look up anything by Vic and Bob, they are absolute favourites of ours, and I'm so excited that this is on. So let's say goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.